Hey, how's it going, pop-up campers? Welcome back to It's Poppin', where we talk about everything pop-up camper related. So in this video, we're gonna kind of do some pop-up camper myth busters. So I want to test out, and I think this is probably the best time of year to do it. I want to test out how well the Reflectix inserts for your bunk ends or your windows and such. I want to see how well those actually keep the warmth or the warm air in your pop-up camper. See if they provide any insulative effect, if you will. And while I'm doing that, I want to test a couple methods of heating the pop-up. First, I want to use the method we use like 99% of the time, and that's just an electric space heater. That way, when we're plugged in to shore power, we don't have to use any of our propane. But I also want to test our onboard propane heater and kind of see which one heats up the camper better. Now, once we have the camper heated up, I want to test how well those Reflectix inserts kind of keep the pop-up warm. So let's get started. All right, guys. So just to give you a bit of baseline. Outside, and by outside I mean in our garage, it's about 45 degrees or so, and inside here we're pushing 47, 48 degrees, so just a touch cooler inside. Of course, I've got some lights going and things like that. Of course, I'm in here, so it makes sense that it's a little bit warmer in here. So what I'm going to do is I have a clock as well as a thermometer set up, and we're going to turn on that space heater without, of course, the Reflectix inserts going, and we'll see how long it takes up. Let's just go maybe 72 degrees. Let's see how long it takes to heat up to 72. So here's where we normally set our space heater. I'm just gonna turn it on high. I'm gonna turn it on max, and we'll let it oscillate. And let's see what time we got. We got 6:08 p.m. So we're about an hour into this test without the Reflectix and using the electric heater, and we're about 12 or 13 degrees warmer than we were when we first started. So I may have been a touch optimistic in how fast I thought this might warm up. So because it's only maybe 59 degrees in here, I'm gonna give this another hour, see how far we get. If we hit our goal of 72, great. We might cut it at 68 or 65 and just use that as our kind of standard metric for going forward. But let's give it another hour and see where we're at. So while we're just messing around with the heaters, I have one of these infrared thermometers, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to see how much heat these actually kick out. So let's see, the electric space heater, looks like anywhere from 250 to 270, thereabouts. Yeah, seems to average right around, let's see if I can get that to focus. You can do it. There we go, yeah, right around 250. So that'll be interesting to compare with the propane space heater. Alright guys, so it looks like I was totally over optimistic, and after 2 hours we only hit 61.2 degrees with the electric space heater. So I guess that'll just be our baseline, either 2 hours or 61.2 degrees Fahrenheit, and we'll see how the next ones go. So what's funny is I turned the space heater off, and the temperature in here actually went up to 61.5 even though the heater was off. So maybe there's some like little bit of residual lag or something with the thermometer, a little bit behind. So we'll say 61.5 for the sake of the argument. So now what we're gonna do is obviously turn everything off and see how long that heat that we generated with the space heater stays in here without any of the Reflectix windows inside. So we're finally down to our baseline of right around 48 degrees. It keeps popping up and down, but close enough for me. So now we're gonna test out how long it takes to heat up the pop-up camper with the onboard propane heater, also without the Reflectix inserts. I was kind of surprised at how long it took to heat up the pop-up with just the electric space heater. So we'll see if this propane heater heats it up a little faster. So hopefully you guys can hear me okay over the propane heater going, but we're only 23 minutes into the test with the propane heater going. Of course, still no Reflectix, but we're already at 61.5 degrees. So that blew the space heater out of the water in terms of heating up the pop-up camper quickly. Actually, I'm a little surprised at how much quicker that was, but I suppose maybe if you look at how many BTUs each of these heaters kick out, it might not be that much of a surprise, but I had no idea how much faster that propane heater would be, because like I said before, we rarely use it. So I guess it's kind of good to know if you need to heat up your pop-up camper quickly, that's definitely the way to go. But if you have both, maybe you can use both in conjunction to get it heated up even more quickly by combining the two together. So now that we know that the propane heater blows the electric space heater out of the water in terms of how fast it can heat up the pop-up camper, let's throw in these Reflectix inserts. We have a total of 7 of them, 3 on each of the bunk ends, and then we actually also made one for the large window on the slide out. So let's get these Reflectix inserts put in and we'll do our next test. Alright guys, so we got all of the window inserts in, all the Reflectix in the windows. So now we're going to do pretty much the same thing, except of course this is an experiment. Let's see if the camper heats up a little bit better. First of all, we're going to start off with the space heater and see if that performs a little bit better. We have very similar conditions to the first in terms of temperature, both inside and outside the camper. So hopefully, you know, they're close enough that we might be able to see some results or extrapolate some findings from this. So we'll get the space heater turned on and see if it warms up a little bit faster. Alright guys, so we did it. We made it to that 61.5 mark that we hit without the Reflectix, and we did it a little bit, I think like 31 minutes quicker. So that seems pretty significant to me in terms of how quickly we heated up to the same temperature. Now I know there's a little bit of variability with the exterior temp. It's really hard to control. So I did fire up one of the propane space heaters in the garage just to bring it up to hopefully a similar temperature that it was last night. But like I said, it's really hard to control. So, but half an hour seems pretty quick in terms of heating it up. So now I shut off the space heater. We'll let it cool back down and see when we get back to, you know, right around that 48 degree mark or thereabouts. And then of course we'll heat it up with the propane heater. Alright, so we are finally back down to temperature. I'm not sure on the exact time, so I'll have to go back and look at the cameras, crunch some data, and see how long it took to cool down compared to when there were no Reflectix inserts in. But let's do our final test. Let's see how long it takes for the pop-up camper to heat up to that 61.5 degree mark with the reflective inserts in using the onboard propane heater. So we have the Reflectix in this window right here, and let's see, about 60 65.5, 66 maybe. And then when we bring it over to the part of the canvas that isn't covered by the Reflectix, pretty big difference, about 59 all the way up to 66. So that's pretty cool. So also we have our, of course, our mattress, and then under our mattress is just some of the cheap foam, interlocking foam. So let's see what we got going on here. So we got about 61.5, maybe 60, not quite 62 on the bed. Then we lift the bed up. Under the foam, we are all the way down to 48.6. And then even further, when we get down to the bare wood, about 45.6, 46 thereabouts. So definitely a big difference with each layer that we go up. And the results are in for the propane heater with the Reflectix. A whole 17 minutes to heat up, and comparing that to about a half an hour without the Reflectix. Granted, there were slight temperature differences in our starting point, but overall, 17 minutes versus half an hour, I think we can, you know, give it a few minutes leeway. But yeah, definitely some surprising results at how quick that was. I thought it'd be at least 20, 22, so even beat my expectations. So after sitting down and reviewing some of the camera footage, we got some results for our pop-up camping myth busting, if you will, doing some testing. So for the space heater without the Reflectix, it was a total time of 2 hours and 4 minutes to go from our baseline up to 61.5. And then we let that cool down, and it took 2 hours and 16 minutes to cool back down to our baseline. Now, when we used the propane heater without the Reflectix, it only took, let's see, 25 minutes. So significantly quicker than the electric space heater. Then we, of course, put in the Reflectix inserts, and with the space heater, it took 1 hour and 28 minutes to heat up. Once again, cooling down, it took 1 hour and 35 minutes. So the only reason I can think of as to why it cooled down quicker with the Reflectix, it just had to be that variability in the exterior temperature around the pop-up. That's really all I can explain, because otherwise why would it heat up faster but also cool down quicker? It's just that's the only extraneous variable that was difficult to control that might explain that. So that might need some further exploring. But after we let the pop-up camper cool down with the Reflectix in it, we of course ran it up with a propane heater, and that only took 17 minutes to get up to temperature compared to 25 minutes without. So definitely some cool results to be expected, and it definitely seems like the Reflectix is worth it for when you're camping in cold weather. So if you guys have any suggestions for us in terms of some more pop-up camping or pop-up camper myth busting that we can do, definitely let us know. Some of the thoughts I had were to do some testing on the refrigerator, do some cool down testing on all 3 methods of cooling down the refrigerator, and also of course doing kind of the counterpart test to the one we just did, and come summertime, or at least when it warms up a little bit more, throwing those Reflectix back in, and of course even testing out like the survival blankets or pop-up gizmos that you put on top of the bunk ends here to see how much those help to keep the camper cool, and see if the camper cools down quicker with the Reflectix when you're trying to cool it down with the AC. So just a couple of ideas I had that I'd like to do in the future, but definitely let us know if you guys have any suggestions. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, definitely like and subscribe. That helps YouTube know to promote this video. And as always, hopefully we'll see you in the next video. If not, hopefully we'll see you out there camping.